My family made me work as their servant at my brother's engagement party that I secretly paid for. So I exposed their entire fake lifestyle and sued them for $132,000. Hey Reddit, this happened about 6 months ago and I'm still dealing with the aftermath. But honestly, best decision I ever made. Names changed, obviously, but everything else is exactly how it went down. So I, 28 male, work in tech, making around $95,000. My older brother Jeremiah, 31 male, has been the golden child since we were kids. For the past 3 years, I've been secretly covering his rent, car payments, and basically his entire lifestyle because my parents guilt tripped me into helping family. Here's the twisted part. While I'm funding everything, Jeremiah's been telling everyone, including his new fiancee Madison, that he's a successful entrepreneur. Madison's from serious old money. Her family owns half the commercial real estate downtown. They think they're marrying their daughter to someone in their league. My parents are social climbers who've been bragging to their country club friends about Jeremiah's business success and investment portfolio. All fake. Every bit of his lifestyle comes from my bank account, but somehow I'm still the family disappointment while he's the rising star. When Jeremiah got engaged to Madison 6 months ago, my parents decided to throw this massive engagement party to impress her wealthy family. The venue, catering, decorations. Guess who ended up paying the $15,000 bill? Yeah, that'd be me. Again. But I figured maybe this party would finally get me some recognition. Maybe my parents would acknowledge I'd helped make it possible. Or Jeremiah would thank me in his speech. Maybe for once I'd be treated like family instead of an afterthought. The day of the party arrives and I show up in my best suit, feeling pretty good about things. I'd put in almost 15 grand for this event. Surely they'd treat me with some respect, right? Wrong. So wrong. I walk into this fancy ballroom at the country club. I'm thinking I'll grab a drink and maybe chat with Madison's family before things get started. But then my mom appears out of nowhere, acting all nervous and weird. She drags me to this side room full of catering equipment and drops the bomb. Carson, we need someone we trust to help coordinate things behind the scenes tonight. She pulls out a server's uniform from a box. Black vest, white shirt, bow tie. Professional catering staff outfit that matches what the actual hired servers are wearing. We need you to help with service tonight. Madison's family expects a very high level of service, and we can't afford any mistakes. I'm standing there staring at this uniform, not processing what she's saying. My own mother is asking me to work as hired help at a party I paid for. Mom, what the hell? I'm a guest. I'm family. She gets that look like I'm being difficult. Carson, this is important. This party could determine Jeremiah's entire future. You're so good with people. You know what needs to be done. I tried to argue, but guests were already arriving, including Madison's parents. Mom kept insisting it was just for tonight, and everyone needs to do their part for family. So like an idiot, I put on the uniform. I figured I'd help for a bit, then change back into my regular clothes once things got going. Biggest mistake of my life. The uniform fit perfectly, which should have been my first clue this wasn't some last-minute idea. They'd ordered it specifically for me, in my exact size. This whole thing was planned from the beginning. As soon as I walked out in that server outfit, everything changed. The catering staff started treating me like I worked for the company. The venue coordinator handed me a list of responsibilities. Even the bartender started giving me instructions about drink orders. But the worst part was my family's reaction. When my dad saw me in the uniform, he just nodded like it made perfect sense. And Jeremiah? He glanced over, looked right through me, and kept talking to Madison's dad about golf. None of them thought anything was weird about their son and brother being dressed like hired help at a family event. The first hour was brutal. I'm walking around with trays of appetizers, refilling water glasses, cleaning up plates while my own relatives have conversations around me like I'm invisible. Cousins I've known my whole life are talking about their jobs while I'm literally serving them food. Madison's family was super polite to me, which somehow made it worse. Her dad would thank me for drinks. Her mom complimented the service. They had no idea I was related to anyone. To them, I was just professional catering staff. About an hour in, Madison's mom was praising my mom about the party planning and service quality, and my mom just smiled and said, "Oh yes, we're very particular. We only work with the most professional people." She was talking about me, her own son, like I was an employee she'd hired instead of family she'd manipulated into working for free. The breaking point came when I overheard Madison's dad talking to Jeremiah about business opportunities. This guy was considering bringing Jeremiah into some real estate investment deal, talking about introducing him to investors and clients. Jeremiah was going on about his consulting business, and expansion plans, and strategic partnerships. All complete bullshit since his entire lifestyle was funded by me. but Madison's dad was nodding along, impressed by what he thought was legitimate business success. Meanwhile, I'm 3 feet away holding a tray of shrimp cocktail, wearing a bow tie, listening to my brother get offered real opportunities based on lies I'd been paying to maintain for 3 years. During dinner service, I had to serve food to tables where my extended family was sitting. My aunt asked if I was new to the catering business. My uncle complimented my professional attitude and said the venue had really good staff this time. None of them recognized me. Or if they didn't think it was weird that I was working as a server at my own brother's engagement party. Then came Jeremiah's speech. He thanked Madison for saying yes, thanked her parents for welcoming him, thanked our parents for always believing in him and supporting his dreams. He talked about being grateful for everyone who'd helped him become successful, how he couldn't have achieved anything without family support, how excited he was to start this new chapter with someone who sees his potential. He thanked the venue staff, the catering company, even the band, but not once did he mention me. Not as family, not as support, not as anything. I was invisible unless someone needed their wine refilled. I'm standing there in my bow tie feeling like the biggest fool on the planet. But then something clicked in my brain, like this cold, calculating anger that I'd never felt before. I pulled out my phone and started recording everything. At first, I wasn't even thinking about revenge or exposing anyone. I was just so pissed off and humiliated that I wanted proof of what was happening, you know? Like if I tried to tell people later how my own family treated me, they'd probably think I was exaggerating or being dramatic. But with recordings, nobody could argue with what actually went down. I kept the phone in my vest pocket with the audio recording running while I continued playing waiter for my own relatives. And man, the stuff I caught on tape was even worse than I thought. About 30 minutes after Jeremiah's speech, Madison's dad starts this conversation with Jeremiah about potential business partnerships. This guy is talking serious money, like he wants to bring Jeremiah into some commercial real estate deals worth millions. Madison's dad goes, "You know, Jeremiah, I've been watching how you handle yourself in business, and I think there might be some opportunities for us to work together. I'm always looking for sharp young partners who understand investment strategy." And Jeremiah, this lying piece of shit, just leans back in his chair all confident and says, "Absolutely, sir. My consulting firm has been scaling rapidly this year. We've been focusing on diversified revenue streams and strategic acquisitions. I'm always interested in exploring partnerships with experienced investors like yourself." I'm literally 3 feet away with a tray of dirty dishes, listening to my brother feed this successful businessman complete bullshit about his non-existent company. His consulting firm was a fake website I'd paid $800 to have built. His diversified revenue streams were me transferring money into his checking account every month. But Madison's dad is eating it up, nodding along like Jeremiah's some business genius. He starts talking about introducing Jeremiah to his investment group, maybe getting him into some exclusive business networking events. Real opportunities that could set someone up for life, if they actually had the qualifications and capital to back it up. The recording gets even better when I catch my dad talking to Madison's dad about business opportunities and family traditions of entrepreneurship. Dad's going on about how he's been building his insurance business strategically and how the boys learned their work ethic from watching him succeed. Madison's dad asks about the insurance business expansion plans, and my dad starts making up stuff about opening new territories and bringing in additional partners. Meanwhile, his insurance business is basically him selling car insurance to people who can't afford better rates, and he's been struggling to keep even those clients. But the absolute smoking gun came when I overheard my mom on the phone during a break in the party. She'd stepped out to the hallway to take a call from my Aunt Lily, who couldn't make it to the party but wanted to know how everything went. Aunt Lily asks how they could afford such an expensive venue and catering, and my mom, I swear this is exactly what she said, goes, "Oh, Jeremiah insisted on paying for everything. His business has been doing so well lately. He wanted to make sure Madison's family saw that he could provide for their daughter properly. We tried to contribute, but he wouldn't hear of it. I'm standing right around the corner listening to my own mother lie to her sister about who paid for the party. Not only was Jeremiah not paying for anything, but she knew damn well that I was covering all the costs. Yet she's giving him credit for my 15 grand, while I'm literally working as waitstaff. That's when I realized this wasn't just about tonight. This was a systematic pattern of them erasing my contributions and giving Jeremiah credit for everything I made possible. They weren't just ignoring me. They were actively rewriting reality to make him look successful while keeping me invisible. Near the end of the night, I caught Madison's parents having a private conversation. They're talking about how comfortable they feel about the engagement now that they've met our family and seen that we're financially stable and share similar values. Madison's dad goes, I have to say, I'm really impressed with young Jeremiah. You can tell he comes from good stock, parents who understand business and financial planning. And he's clearly got the drive to build something substantial on his own. Madison's mom agrees, saying, "It's so refreshing to meet a family that understands wealth building and long-term planning." I feel much better about Madison's choice knowing she's marrying into a family with similar success levels. Similar success levels. They think they're dealing with equals, people who've built wealth through smart decisions and hard work. They have no clue they're looking at a house of cards built entirely on my credit score and bank account. By the time the party ended, I had over 2 hours of recorded conversations. Jeremiah lying about his business success, my parents fabricating stories about their investments, Madison's family making real plans based on completely false information. I also had all the receipts. Bank statements showing every payment I'd made for Jeremiah's lifestyle over 3 years. Credit card bills for his apartment deposit, car down payment, even the engagement ring. Screenshots of the fake business website I'd paid to have built. Photos of me in that ridiculous server uniform, while they accepted praise for achievements that only existed because of my money. When I got home that night, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just listening to some of the recordings, hearing my own family lie about me, erase my contributions, and take credit for success I'd funded was honestly worse than the humiliation of wearing that uniform. That's when I realized Madison and her family deserved to know the truth. They were making real decisions about their daughter's future based on lies. Her dad was planning to bring Jeremiah into business deals involving serious money. They were welcoming him into their family thinking he was someone he absolutely wasn't. The next morning, I woke up with this weird clarity I'd never felt before. Like all the anger and humiliation from the night before had crystallized into this cold, calculated determination. I wasn't sad or hurt anymore. I was just done with their bullshit. I called in sick to work and spent the entire day going through 3 years of financial records. Bank statements, credit card bills, Venmo transfers, everything. I wanted exact numbers for every single dollar I'd spent creating Jeremiah's fake lifestyle. The spreadsheet I built was brutal. Total, $92,000 over 3 years. Not including the engagement party and ring. $92,000 to create the illusion that my brother was a successful businessman. While I got treated like hired help at events I funded, but the money was just part of it. I started organizing all the lies I'd caught on recording, and the pattern was even worse than I thought. This wasn't just about Jeremiah pretending to be successful. My whole family had built their social identity around lies I was paying to maintain. The really sick part was discovering how they talked about me behind my back. I found a group text between my parents and Emily, where Mom said, "Thank God Carson's finally being useful for something." When I agreed to help pay for the engagement party, Dad replied, "Yeah, maybe this will teach him about family responsibility." Family responsibility. I'd been bankrolling their golden child for 3 years, and they thought I was finally learning responsibility by paying for his engagement party. But the worst discovery was an email thread between my parents and Jeremiah from 2 months before the engagement party. They were discussing how to manage Carson's expectations for the event. Dad wrote, "We need to make sure Carson understands his role and doesn't try to make this about him. This is Jeremiah's night, and Madison's family will be watching everything." Mom replied, "I'll talk to him about helping with service. He's good with that kind of thing, and it'll keep him busy so he doesn't get in the way." Jeremiah's response, "Perfect. Just make sure he knows this is important for my future with Madison. He can be supportive for once instead of always making everything awkward." They'd planned the whole thing. The server uniform, the coordination responsibilities, treating me like hired help. It was all deliberately orchestrated to keep me out of sight while they performed their fake success story for Madison's family. I screenshot everything and started building what I called the nuclear option. Audio recordings of all their lies at the party. But I wanted one more piece of evidence before I pulled the trigger. So I did something I'd never done before. I checked Jeremiah's social media accounts that I wasn't connected to. Holy shit, the stuff I found there. I found out my Jeremiah was blasting Instagram with fake inspirational nonsense. Photos from his engagement party, bragging about how hard work and focus make amazing things happen. Meanwhile, I was the one still paying off the credit card bill for his engagement ring. His LinkedIn was even worse. He'd crowned himself founder and CEO of some made-up consulting company with fake revenue and client reviews I'd never seen. He kept posting about partnerships that were really just Madison's dad setting him up with real deals based on Jeremiah's lies. But of course, Jeremiah acted like he built it all himself. Then there was his private Facebook, where he thanked our parents for teaching him smart financial planning. The same parents who'd been asking me for money every month for 3 years because they couldn't cover their own bills. That's when I realized Madison and her family weren't just being lied to, they were being actively defrauded. Her dad was planning to bring Jeremiah into business deals worth millions, thinking he was partnering with a successful entrepreneur instead of a guy who couldn't afford his own rent. I started researching what kind of legal trouble they could all be in. Turns out, using false financial information to obtain business partnerships or investments is fraud. Misrepresenting your assets and income to induce someone to enter into agreements with you is a crime. And my parents weren't innocent bystanders. They'd actively participated in the deception. All those conversations with Madison's family about their investment portfolio and financial planning weren't just social lies, they were material misrepresentations that influenced real decisions. The more I dug, the more I realized this wasn't just about family drama anymore. This was about Madison's family potentially losing serious money because they'd been fed bullshit about who they were dealing with. That's when I made the decision to go nuclear. Not just for my own satisfaction, but because Madison deserved to know who she was really marrying before she made the biggest mistake of her life. I spent 2 more days organizing everything into a comprehensive evidence package. Audio files, screenshots, financial records, social media posts, everything that proved their entire lifestyle was built on lies I'd been paying for while being treated like garbage. The plan was simple. Wait for the perfect moment when both families would be together, then drop everything at once. Maximum impact, maximum exposure, maximum consequences for everyone who'd participated in erasing me while taking credit for my money. I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. I was going to be the guy who pulled back the curtain on their whole operation and watched it all burn down. Because if they wanted to play games with my money and treat me like hired help, they were about to learn exactly what happened when the funding disappeared and the truth came out. Time to stop being their secret weapon and start being their worst nightmare. 2 weeks after the engagement party, the perfect opportunity presented itself. Madison's parents invited both families to brunch at their country club to discuss wedding planning, future arrangements, and some business opportunities Madison's dad wanted to offer Jeremiah. This was it, the moment when all their lies would come together in one room, with Madison's family making real decisions based on complete bullshit. I couldn't let that happen. The night before the brunch, I created a group text that included both families, plus some extended relatives and family friends who'd been hearing about Jeremiah's amazing success for years. Basically, everyone who'd been fed this garbage about our family's wealth and Jeremiah's business genius. I spent an hour crafting the perfect message. Had to be clear, factual, and impossible to dismiss as some kind of misunderstanding. This wasn't about emotions or family drama. This was about facts and evidence. At 11:47 p.m. on Saturday night, I hit send. Before tomorrow's meeting, there are some things everyone should know about our family's actual financial situation. Everything you've been told about Jeremiah's business success and our family's wealth is false. I have documentation proving this. Then I attached everything, all of it. The message I sent with everything was simple and devastating. Jeremiah's entire lifestyle has been funded by me since 2021. His business doesn't exist. It's a fake website I paid to have built. His apartment, car, and engagement ring are all paid for with my credit cards and bank transfers. Our parents have been lying to Madison's family about their financial situation to appear wealthy enough for this marriage. Madison's family. You're making business decisions based on false information. Jeremiah has no capital, no revenue, and no legitimate business experience. The successful entrepreneur you think you're welcoming into your family is actually unemployed and living entirely off his brother's income. I thought you all deserved to know the truth before making major life and financial decisions based on deception. I turned off my phone and went to bed. When I woke up Sunday morning and turned it back on, my phone had basically exploded. 73 missed calls, 127 text messages, and the family group chat had over 400 messages that kept coming in real time. Madison had sent me 4 separate messages. The first just said, "Is this real?" The second was longer, asking specific questions about the bank statements and recordings. The third thanked me for telling her the truth. The fourth said, "Engagement is off. Thank you for saving me from making the biggest mistake of my life." My parents had called me 18 times each. Their voicemails started angry, then shifted to panicked, then became desperate. The last one from my mom was just her crying, begging me to call back and fix this misunderstanding before it destroyed the whole family. Jeremiah's messages were mostly threats and insults. "You psycho. You destroyed my life over one dinner. Madison won't even look at me now thanks to your bullshit. I hope you're happy ruining everything I worked for." Then he tried guilt tripping. "How could you do this to someone you're supposed to love? We're family. Family. Rich coming from the guy who'd been stealing my money for 3 years while treating me like garbage. But the best messages came from Madison's family. Her dad sent a long, respectful message thanking me for my honesty and saying he wished I'd told them sooner. He also mentioned they'd been planning to offer Jeremiah a partnership position that would have involved handling investor funds, so they were grateful to know the truth before that happened. Madison's mom sent something similar, apologizing for not realizing I was family at the engagement party and saying she felt terrible about how I'd been treated. She also said they'd be reaching out to other families in their social circle to make sure nobody else got involved in business deals with Jeremiah. The extended family messages were brutal for my parents. Multiple relatives asking if they could get back money they'd lent based on claims about doing well financially. My uncle wanted his $3,000 back that he'd loaned them for investment opportunities last year. Aunt Lily demanded an explanation for the $5,000 she'd contributed to what she thought was Jeremiah's business expansion. By Monday morning, the social destruction was complete. Madison had posted on Instagram that the engagement was off due to irreconcilable differences regarding honesty and financial transparency. Her friends started sharing it, and pretty soon half their social circle knew something major had gone down. But the real fallout was just beginning. Madison's dad had apparently told his business partners about Jeremiah's lies, and word was spreading through their professional network. Real estate deals Jeremiah had been bragging about were obviously never going to happen. The exclusive business networking group Madison's dad had offered to introduce him to, they now knew he was a fraud. Even worse for my parents, their lies about having investments and business ventures were unraveling with people who mattered. The insurance clients my dad had tried to impress with stories about family wealth were asking uncomfortable questions. Some were even reconsidering their policies since they'd chosen him partly based on his claims about financial success. Jeremiah had to move out of his apartment within 2 weeks because he couldn't make rent without my support. His car got repossessed when the next payment came due. The fake business website went offline when the hosting bill came due, and nobody paid it. My parents tried desperately to get me to meet with them to work things out and repair the family. But I was done. I'd spent 3 years enabling their lies and getting treated like garbage in return. The engagement party was just the final insult in a long pattern of erasure and disrespect. The really satisfying part was watching their social circles completely abandon them. Country club events where they used to show up and brag about Jeremiah's success? Now they were getting cold shoulders and whispered conversations. Their friend groups were asking pointed questions about all the stories they'd told over the years. Madison reached out a few weeks later to apologize personally for how her family had unknowingly treated me at the party. She seemed genuinely nice and said she felt stupid for not seeing through Jeremiah's lies. I told her she'd dodged a bullet and wished her luck finding someone who wouldn't build their entire relationship on financial fraud. The best part was realizing I was finally free. No more guilty requests for money. No more being excluded from family events while funding them. No more watching other people take credit for my achievements while treating me like hired help. For the first time in 3 years, my paycheck was actually mine, and it felt incredible. But I wasn't done yet. Because while the social destruction was satisfying, I wanted something more permanent. Something that would make sure they could never pull this bullshit again. A month later, I was feeling pretty satisfied with how everything had played out. Their fake social status was destroyed, Jeremiah's engagement was off, and I was finally free from being their personal ATM. I figured that was justice enough. Then my buddy Mason, who's a lawyer, asked me something that changed everything. Dude, have you thought about actually getting your money back? Like legally? I'd been so focused on exposing their lies that I hadn't really considered the legal angle. But Mason explained that what they'd done wasn't just shitty family behavior. It was potentially fraud and unjust enrichment. Think about it, he said. You gave them money based on their claims that it was temporary help and family support, but they were actually using it to build a fake lifestyle while actively deceiving other people about their finances. That's not a gift. That's obtaining money under false pretenses. The more we talked, the more I realized I had a legitimate case. All those payments I'd made thinking I was helping family could be considered loans since I'd never formally gifted the money, and they'd obtained it through deception about their circumstances and needs. Mason referred me to his friend Sasha, who specializes in family fraud cases. When I showed her all my documentation, the bank records, recordings, text messages, everything, her eyes lit up. This is one of the clearest cases of unjust enrichment I've seen, she said. They systematically obtained money from you under false pretenses, used it to benefit themselves financially, and caused you reputational and emotional damage in the process. She explained that I could sue for the full amount they'd taken, plus damages for the harm they'd caused. The recordings of them lying to Madison's family while I worked as their servant, That was evidence of intentional infliction of emotional distress. The social media post taking credit for my money? That was defamation of character. Plus, Sasha added, the fact that they were using your money to commit fraud against Madison's family makes this even worse. They weren't just stealing from you. They were using stolen money to deceive other victims. I decided to go for it. If they wanted to treat me like hired help while stealing my money, they could explain it to a judge. The lawsuit was brutal for them. I sued Jeremiah for fraud, unjust enrichment, and conversion. My parents got hit with conspiracy charges and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The legal papers were served simultaneously to all three of them on a Thursday morning. Within hours, my phone was blowing up again, but this time their messages were pure panic. Dad, Carson, what the hell is this lawsuit? We can't afford lawyers right now. Mom, please call us. We can work this out as a family. You don't need to involve courts. Jeremiah, this is insane. You're actually suing your own family over money? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I'd been funding their lies for 3 years while being treated like garbage, and I was the one with problems. They tried to get me to drop the suit, offering to work out a payment plan for some of the money, but I wasn't interested in partial repayment or monthly installments that would take decades. I wanted everything, with interest and damages. Their lawyer, some cheap guy they found through legal aid, tried to argue that the money was gifts between family members. But Sasha had anticipated that defense. She had recordings of them explicitly calling my payments loans and promising to pay me back once things improved. Even better, she had evidence that they'd obtained the money through misrepresentation. All those guilt trips about Jeremiah being temporarily struggling and needing just a little help to get back on his feet were provably false. They'd never intended to pay me back. They'd been planning to use my money indefinitely while building their fake social status. The discovery phase was devastating for them. Sasha subpoenaed their bank records, credit reports, and social media accounts. Everything they'd hidden came out in court documents. The fake business website, the fabricated investment stories, the systematic deception of Madison's family. But the worst part for them was having their lies exposed in public records. Court filings are public documents, which meant anyone could search their names and find detailed evidence of how they defrauded their own family member. The trial itself was a shit show for them. Sasha had me play the audio recordings in court, Jeremiah lying about his business income, my parents fabricating stories about their investments, my mom claiming Jeremiah had paid for the engagement party. Then she showed the photos of me in that server uniform while they accepted praise for achievements funded by my money. The judge actually shook her head when she saw those. The most damaging testimony came when Sasha called Madison as a witness. Madison explained how my family's lies had influenced her decision to get engaged, and how her father had been planning to offer Jeremiah business partnerships worth millions based on false financial information. They weren't just lying to family, Madison testified. They were preparing to defraud our entire business network using money stolen from Carson. Jeremiah's lawyer tried to make me look vindictive, arguing that I was just angry about family dynamics and using the courts for revenge. But Sasha shut that down quickly. Your Honor, this isn't about hurt feelings. It's about systematic financial fraud. The defendants obtained over $100,000 from my client through false pretenses, used it to commit additional fraud against third parties, and caused substantial reputational and emotional damage in the process. The judge wasn't sympathetic to their "but we're family" defense. She'd seen the evidence, heard the recordings, and read their social media posts taking credit for my money. She awarded me the full $107,000. Every penny I'd spent on their fake lifestyle, plus $25,000 in damages for emotional distress and reputational harm. Total judgment, $132,000, plus legal fees and court costs. The best part? They had to pay within 90 days or face wage garnishment and asset seizure. They didn't have $132,000 lying around. Their entire fake wealth had been built on my money, and now that the tap was shut off, they were broke. Dad had to take out a second mortgage on the house. Mom got a second job at a grocery store. They had to sell both their cars and buy used ones with financing that destroyed their credit even more. Jeremiah moved back in with them because he couldn't afford his own place anymore. The guy who'd been Mr. Successful Entrepreneur was suddenly a 31-year-old living in his childhood bedroom, working retail to help pay off the judgment. But the real justice was the public record aspect. Anyone who Googled their names would find court documents detailing exactly how they defrauded their own family member and used stolen money to build fake social status. The best part was getting that first payment. Sasha had set up automatic wage garnishment, so money started coming out of their paychecks immediately. Every month, I'd get a check representing their labor, paying back what they'd stolen from me. It felt incredible knowing that for once, they were working to benefit me instead of the other way around. For once, I was the one getting paid while they struggled to make ends meet. As for me, I used the settlement money as a down payment on a house. A real house that I actually owned, not some fake investment story to impress people at dinner parties. Best of all, I never had to wear a server uniform to family events again. Mostly because I don't go to family events anymore. But still, freedom feels pretty good. The funny thing is, my parents still occasionally call asking if we can put this behind us and rebuild our relationship. But they never acknowledge what they did wrong or apologize for stealing from me. They just want their personal ATM back. Not happening. I learned my lesson about being the invisible family funding source. These days, the only lifestyle I'm supporting is my own, and it turns out that's exactly how it should have been all along. The desperation really hit 2 months later when they showed up at my house unannounced. I was having coffee on a Saturday morning when I heard this pathetic knocking at my door. Through the peephole, I see all three of them, my parents and Jeremiah, standing on my porch looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Just stood there in my doorway while they shuffled around like kids who got caught stealing. Dad started with some bullshit about, we need to talk as a family, and how this has gone on long enough. Mom was doing that fake crying thing she always does when she wants sympathy, and Jeremiah just looked defeated, like he finally understood that his golden boy status was permanently over. Carson, please, Mom said. Please. We've paid you back almost $40,000 already. That's a lot of money. Can't you forgive the rest? We're family. I almost laughed. 40,000 out of 132? You still owe me $92,000 plus interest? Dad jumped in with his guilt trip routine. Son, we get that you were hurt, but this is excessive. We've learned our lesson. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive the remaining debt? It's destroying our lives. Destroying your lives? I said. Like you destroyed mine when you made me work as your server while stealing my money for 3 years? Jeremiah tried his manipulation tactics. Come on, Carson. We've been paying for months now. We're broke, living paycheck to paycheck. You've made your point. Can't you just call it even and drop the rest? That's when I lost it. I told them how ridiculous it was to call it even. How 40 grand wouldn't magically wipe out what they did to me. They'd stolen over $100,000, humiliated me at my own family events, and now had the nerve to act like I should just shrug off 90,000 more because it was inconvenient for them. We can't afford these payments, Dad said desperately. Your mother's working 2 jobs, Jeremiah can barely find work because of his background check issues, and we might lose the house. Good, I said. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me and treat me like hired help at events I funded. Mom started crying harder. Carson, please, we're begging you. We've already paid so much. Can't that be enough? We promise we'll never ask you for money again. Jeremiah tried one last desperate play. Look, man, we'll sign something saying we'll never contact you again. Just forgive the remaining debt, and we'll stay out of your life forever. I started to close the door, then turned back for one final shot. Here's the thing. I don't want you to stay out of my life forever. I want those monthly payments. Every time that garnishment check hits my account, I remember exactly what you people are worth to me. You're not family anymore. You're just debtors who owe me money. I shut the door and watched through the window as they stood there for a few minutes, probably trying to figure out if they should knock again. They didn't, just walked back to their beat-up used car and drove away. That was the last time they tried to contact me directly. Now I just get those beautiful monthly payments and the occasional update from relatives about how much worse their situation gets.